it was a prison of his own making. So if you look at, on the third top floor where Bin Laden lived, there was only windows on one side. 4 of the windows are just slits right at the top, and then there's one big window. The house was designed in such a way that Bin Laden, no one could see in where Bin Laden was living, yet he couldn't see out. And then one more flight, there was another big metal door. This door had not been blown open. Bin Laden had put his head out the door. The SEALs had seen him. He either forgot or he was in a rush. You could close the door with a bolt. He didn't do that. The SEALs ran through this door. They turned right into the bedroom where he lived. They shot his wife, Amal, the youngest wife, in the leg. She collapsed unconscious on the bed. Then they shot Bin Laden twice. You could see it was a very low ceiling. Bin Laden's 6'4", ceiling 7 feet. You could see where the blood marks, where blood had sort of spurted out of his head when they shot him through the head. I think the photos will inevitably come out because, these things do come out. And I've interviewed people who have seen the pictures and they say it's Osama bin Laden with a big hole in his head. So, well, after 9/11, there was a huge explosion in the number of people working at the CIA. And there was a new discipline created, I guess, called targeter. Targeters were people who, tried to find senior members of al-Qaida. They would be looking at people's emails, their phone calls, any kind of digital evidence that they could follow. They would be looking at, they'd be tracking people. Eventually, this group of people would be tracking people for drone attacks. Initially, there were very few drone attacks. The drone attacks only really began in any serious way in the summer of 2008, at the end of the George W. Bush second term. And then, of course, President Obama took that program and made it even bigger. Al-Qaeda as an idea, I think, will continue to exist for some period of time, but it will become less and less relevant. And we will see these copycat type events, but they will...
You had homegrown terrorists who tried to attack the New York Tube and...
Yeah, and in fact, one has succeeded. I mean, this guy, Major Nidal Hassan, who's an American medical doctor and major in the American military, was inspired by al-Qaeda in Yemen. He killed 13 people at his base on Fort Hood, Texas. But, and of course, that was a tragedy for the people who involved, but, this is not 3,000 people dead in the course of a morning, and the attacks on Washington and New York and the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. It's a very different thing. So, it'll be a persistent but very low-level threat for decades. But we're doing if we are frightened of this as, we're doing the terrorist work for them. I mean, terrorism only works if it terrorizes, and if we're not terrorized and if we're concerned about other things, we've sort of won. And I think that most people understand that this is not a big problem and and it isn't.